Welcome to our space edition of Rebellion's educational series with the living legend, astronaut Mike Mullane. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Alex, and thank you for the invitation.
The pleasure is all ours. I mean, you've been to space 3 times. You've seen everything. You were one of the original space shuttle astronauts. Having you on today is such an honor. Let's jump right in to the awful tragedy of 1986. Please tell us your experience.
Yeah, Challenger was lost in 1986. As you mentioned, I was selected in the first group of space shuttle astronauts, and 4 of my astronaut crewmates or classmates were killed on Challenger, including Judy Resnick. Most people, when they hear a woman's name associated with Challenger, they always mention Krista McAuliffe, the school teacher, but there was a female woman astronaut, Judy Resnick, who was also on board that mission, was killed. Her and I flew together on our rookie mission 17 months earlier. So obviously my connection to Challenger was very deep, and it was like ripping your heart out to see something like that happen. Now, from a mechanical point of view, the reason Challenger occurred is these booster segments, solid rocket boosters, were so large they were made in Utah, and they were launched in Florida. Well, they couldn't transport them as a single piece, so they were made in 4 propellant-filled pieces that were then stacked together, bolted together at Florida for launch. Where they bolted them together was a potential leak path for the 5,000-degree gas inside to leak outside. So that could never happen. So they had these O-ring seals, they call them, that were at these joints to prevent that leakage. Well, those O-rings was a faulty design, and it resulted in a failure of the O-ring on the right side booster rocket at one of the joints. That fire leaked out, caused the destruction of the vehicle 73 seconds into flight, killing the astronauts. So mechanically, that was the cause of Challenger. But if you go deeper into that tragedy, it was really a failure of teamwork is what it was, because there was evidence of that failure mode that began on flight 2. These boosters, now you got to remember, those things didn't sink in the ocean when they were jettisoned. They had parachutes. They lowered them into the water. They were picked up, taken back, cleaned up, and used over again. And so they had an opportunity to inspect the performance of these O-rings on each of these recovered flights. And beginning with flight 2, they noticed that there was a potential catastrophic failure mode associated with this design, and they had multiple signatures of that throughout the launches that preceded Challenger. Challenger was the 25th launch. So that was beginning. If you look at it, the first indication of failure mode was 4 years before Challenger, when the boosters recovered from flight 2, and now you have 23 more missions before Challenger occurred. So there was a significant amount of information that these boosters were going to fail, but because of a failure of teamwork and reacting to that information, that's an impossibly long story to talk about here, but you can certainly read about it. But a failure of teamwork resulted in this known problem continuing to exist, and ultimately it caused the tragedy of Challenger. And that's what really hurt too, is the fact that it was something that could have been prevented had we reacted properly to it at the very beginning when the first evidence of a failure mode was noted.
So heavy bureaucracy essentially was...
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive operation. Well, if you really go back and ask the question, why was Challenger launched? If you want the root answer to that, it was overpromised and underfunded. You got to remember how we ended up with the shuttle program. The Apollo program cost almost $300 billion in current year dollars to get that flag on the moon. And Congress certainly had other things to do with $300 billion. So as the Apollo program was winding up, they were telling NASA, hey, congratulations, you beat the Russians to the moon, great job. But now in the post-Apollo era, you better find a cheaper way to get your astronauts into space, because you're not going to have this lavish funding that you had during the space race. So NASA answered that call with a brilliant idea. Let's make the next rocket reusable. It'll fly out of orbit, land on a runway. You can use it over again. That's going to save a bundle of money. And they envisioned that it would be so simple to operate, so cheap and reliable. It would have the reliability of, and the safety actually, of a high-flying airplane. They would be able to now launch all of our satellites on this one rocket. So you have economies of scale here, but it required the shuttle to fly and fly often to do that. It required 24 flights a year, basically a mission every 2 weeks is what NASA was aimed at. That proved an impossible task to get to with the funding that was available. So you have this team, and this happens everywhere, not just in the space program, but in the private world too. You have this team that's under tremendous schedule pressure. They have a problem, and instead of doing what they should do at that point, in NASA we had documents that had designated components that were critical and could never fail, and the O-ring was one of them. So if you see a problem with the O-ring, basically that's when you stop. You don't continue flights until you understand and fix it.
Well, Astronaut, where were you mentally? Were you scared of going on the shuttle? Did you get nervous every time you went on? You know.
Yes. I tell people I was Challenger had nothing to do with my fear factor, though. I came out of the military flying as an astronaut, and military flying is dangerous. Friends died. You saw planes crash.
You were in Vietnam?
I was in Vietnam too, yeah.
From 72 to 77, right?
Oh no, in Vietnam I was there in 1969.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. You became an astronaut in 79, and you were in Vietnam originally 60. You said 62?
69. Yeah, 69. But military flying is dangerous. So you know that these high complex airplanes can crash, and now you're flying the most complex airplane ever, the space shuttle. So you have a sense that there's a lot of possibilities of failure here, even though there's a tremendous team behind you and tremendous redundancy in that vehicle. So in the back of your mind, the thing that really though made the shuttle, in my opinion, really did make for a white knuckle ride for me was the fact there was no ejection system on it. There was no escape system on it.
Were you more scared on the shuttle than on your military flights?
Absolutely. I tell people I never had the anticipatory fear of a combat mission in Vietnam as I had with the shuttle.
So nearly 20 years in military flights, and you were far more scared on the shuttle.
Yes, I was, and the reason is on a military jet you have an ejection system. You have a way of bailing out. I know it's a false security because obviously the plane could be destroyed in anti-aircraft fire.
But there's hope.
Yeah, you have this sense of that you can get out of it. On the shuttle was thought from redundancy and testing that it would be as reliable as a 747, and you don't put escape systems on a 747, so the rationale is you didn't need them on a space shuttle. Clearly, that was false reasoning, but it was that lack of an escape system that it was always in the back of my mind that once you get aboard this vehicle and it launches, and particularly during the launch phase, the early launch phase, when you really feel like if something's bad is going to happen, it's going to happen really quickly. You realize you have no way of bailing out of this, and that's a very uncomfortable position. But like I say in my book, though, this was a dream come true for me, and this is true for every astronaut. It's in our DNA. In my book, I use the example: if you open up the side hatch of a shuttle 30 seconds before launch and told the astronauts aboard, God called and said, "There's a 50-50 chance this vehicle is going to fail and you're going to die, and you can get off if you want." Nobody's getting off. It's that important to them. We're identified through these space missions. It's a passion. It's something we want to do, and we can't not do it. The analogy is the Everest climbers. These mountain climbers for Everest. I think they're nuts. Putting themselves in harm's way doing this. But I know what drives them. Their fear is the fear of not reaching the top. Just as astronauts, the fear is not reaching into space, not making this space mission. That it far exceeds for us and for the Everest climbers the fear of death. So that's
read John Krakauer's In the Thin Air.
I have, yes, great book.
It's a great book, but as a friend of Sandy Pittman's, I can say that there were a lot of false parts to the book, and he does rather put a lot of blame on Sandy in that mission. But blame.
It's been so long since I read it, I don't really recall.
The blame was the leaders were the ones at fault, which is usually the case in almost every incident. The leaders are the ones at fault. Now, with the Everest climbers, you have many ways to get out of there. Now, with you have absolutely nowhere to go. So you have all of this stress that just accumulates throughout the whole mission. But what about the cosmic rays? How hard is it for your body to recover from this mission, mentally, physically?
Oh, first of all, you got to remember, I was only on very short shuttle missions. There was no International Space Station. So when I was in space, I was aboard a spacecraft that could only stay up for a week or two. So my longest mission was just 6 days.
Oh, 6 days in space sounds like forever to me.
Well, it isn't. So the effect on my body was pretty limited. We do get more radiation, but we work under OSHA rules. We wear dosimeters, and they tell us, hey, we can't get any more radiation, lifetime radiation, than somebody working in a nuclear power plant or a nuclear submarine. So, OSHA rules apply. And is it possible, though, that that we could get hit by a cosmic ray that could ultimately cause cancer 30 years later? Yeah, I guess it is. There's that possibility. And NASA, excuse me, NASA tracks astronauts' health after we retire to see if there are indications that they need to do something to better protect astronauts, looking at cancers and other type of issues. But physically, when you're up there, it's wonderful, obviously, floating around. Although I tell you, some people end up space sick. About half the astronauts end up vomiting for a day or two, or even longer. I was in the lucky half that didn't have that. But once you get back on the ground, even 6 days into a mission, when I got up from the seat, I felt like I had lead boots on. I felt like an elephant was on my back. Felt very heavy and lethargic, a little dizzy. Took a couple hours before I felt I could walk without wanting to be close to a wall, so I didn't fall. That went away, though, probably within a couple days. First day I woke up, being back on Earth, I felt like I had a lead sheet laying on top of me. Got out of bed, felt again very lethargic, but I recovered certainly within a week. My body was back to being an Earthling. Now these people are up on the International Space Station for months and even a years, and Russians have exceeded a year. That has got to be a longer readaptation. That would be my guess. But you know what? Something that I think is amazing is how adaptive the human body is. Imagine our whole life, all these billions of years, we evolved in one gravity, and you think now taking that gravity away would be, we wouldn't be able to live. We wouldn't be able to survive, and yet, excuse me, except for a couple, maybe some nausea or something for a couple of days, backache because your spine kind of lengthens up there, the vertebrae. The discs swell and push the vertebrae higher, and that gives you a backache for a couple weeks.
Yes, I remember, so we sat down with astronaut Kelly, and, I know his height changed actually from being up there.
Right, yeah. But it's amazing to me, though, is the human body adapts so rapidly to such a strange environment from the billions of years of evolution. It's almost as if we were designed to leave Earth. I mean, think about it. The analogy is, imagine we could stick our head underwater and immediately grow gills. This is such an alien environment to be weightless. It just blows my mind sometimes to think about how adaptive.
We're an organism that happened to grow on Earth. Didn't mean, we were destined to grow on Earth. I believe we could have grown on other planets.
Well, we certainly imagine that we could not live in weightlessness. Imagine the difficulties then of trying to go to another planet. You'd have to have the old spinning wheel designs to have artificial gravity. I find it remarkable that.
Do you want to go to Mars?
Pardon?
Do you want to go to Mars?
Well, if I had one of those transporters on the Star Trek, I'd love to, but I'm not. My personality is not adaptive to the length of a mission to Mars. Right now, a chemical propulsion technology, you're still looking at the better part of 3 years. Best speed to Mars is 7 months, seven and a half months. Then you got to wait another 20 months for the planets to line up again to make that short 7-month trip back.
Yes.
And so you're looking at the better part of 3 years for a Martian trip. And I don't have the personality for that. I'm an active guy. I go hiking all the time. I love going out in the mountains and nature, and so I know I'd have a difficult time. In fact, I would not be a person for the International Space Station either. I'd love to go to space for maybe a month, but then I want to be back on Earth.
Yeah.
So I don't have a future in the space program.
So what's your opinion on the current space race?
Oh, I love it. I love what SpaceX is doing. I mean, it's provided so much excitement to the space program now, getting people interested, seeing all these young people cheering. That's what amazed me when SpaceX pulled off that, those landings, coming back and landing on the barge and doing those things. And
it was really beautiful.
Oh yeah, you look at the
Inspirational.
audience. Yeah, you look at the audience, and you have these 30-ish people, there and 20-ish people who are just cheering and just so excited, and I really could identify with them. I've always had a passion for space, as you might imagine, and just seeing what Elon Musk has done and how rapidly he's done it. That's what I love. You know, it's he just seems to go at light speed with these things.
Private enterprise moves faster than the government.
Absolutely, there's no question about that. There's
No
some
question.
things the government has to do, has to defend us and do these
No.
things.
Oh, of course. Certain things government must.
Yeah, no question, but it is definitely the private enterprise is much more nimble than the federal government.
This has been an awesome show. I want to leave it with a question. What is your favorite all-time space movie?
A favorite would be I'd say Apollo 13. You know, I really enjoyed that.
Wonderful
But,
movie.
but that's hard to answer. I love the right stuff too. Apollo 13. I like even the Martian and some of these science fiction movies I enjoyed.
You liked
Although,
The Martian with Matt Damon?
I'm sorry.
You liked The Martian with Matt Damon?
Well, I didn't like the ending when they got him with all the. I just didn't like the ending. I didn't like the ending in the book. I didn't like the ending.
I didn't like the ending either, Astronaut. I agree with you 100%, but I liked most of the movie.
Yeah, I did too. You know, it's exciting. Although it's a giant leap in fiction, obviously.
Of course.
You got my wife hates going to movies with me that are space related because I'm whispering to her, "Oh yeah, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen." You know, so you don't want to go to a space movie with Mike Mullane or probably any astronaut to that point.
No, you sound like my father. My father's a former speechwriter for Vice President Mondale and an orthopedic and spinal surgeon, so he has a few opinions on movies. And
I'll bet doctors who watch doctor TV or lawyers who watch lawyer TV, they probably howl laughter at the way they fictionalize things.
the last time he did not criticize a movie was 1987 when we watched The Hunt for the Red October. I think that was the last time he 100% approved of a movie. So
yeah, I love Tom Clancy's books. Loved them.
amazing.
Yeah.
So Apollo 13, was that completely accurate? Do you have any issues with that?
I read the book and watched the movie. Extremely accurate. When I watched it, I was looking for errors, like maybe in Mission Control they'd have a shuttle patch on the
Yes,
wall.
I'd love to know about them if there were.
Well, I can't remember all of them, but when I was looking for technical things, and like I said, I was looking for see a shuttle patch on Mission Control or something like that they forgot. And I kept watching and watching, and I said, God, that book, that they had it nailed. I didn't see anything different from the book on this. And then right after I watched the movie, I came back and there was somebody circulating the top 100 errors in the movie. It was written by people who were there at Apollo. For example, they had the guys that were strapping the astronauts into the capsule had Rockwell on the back, the logo for Rockwell.
Oh, well, these are rather picayune, though.
Well, yeah, it was North American, not later acquired by Rockwell.
C'est la vie. But I'm more interested in like astronaut Mattingly. Was he as cool as Gary Sinise portrayed?
Mattingly was there. He was basically our mentor when we got there as new astronauts. So brilliant guy, a very brilliant guy. I mean, obviously the personality is a little bit different than Gary Sinise.
No, I mean nothing can be the same. But I mean, he was as brilliant as Sinise?
Oh, yeah, he was. There's no question about that. The guy was a genius.
Oh well, now I'm going to enjoy watching Apollo 13 for the 200th time even more.
Well, the thing about Mattingly that we used to laugh at is the guy never seemed to stop. I mean, somebody was saying, you can go down there anytime, night or day, any day of the week, and you're going to see the light on in his office. And he's rail thin too. And somebody was wondering if maybe he was actually an alien that had been left here to help us as miserable humans with some brain power. You know, that
wow.
This guy, you know, he was.
That is the coolest thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, but nobody ever saw him take any time off.
That's why I do this series. I just want to learn from amazing people like you. This is exactly why I'm doing this.
Yeah, he was a great guy. Certainly, I had to laugh though when some astronauts said maybe he's alien. He's been left by the mothership to help us get back, to help us get into space and get to Mars.
Well, yesterday we had Tom Wolfe's daughter on. Alexander Wolf, an acclaimed Wall Street Journal reporter who has been mulling the idea of writing a sequel to The Right Stuff. So let's talk The Right Stuff. Was that movie as accurate to you as Apollo 13 was?
Well, I was not there during
Yeah, so I guess you're
during that era. So I read Tom Wolfe's book and I watched the movie. I later heard that that the depiction of Yeager was dramatized. A lot of guys, I got the impression, did not like Yeager. A lot of astronauts didn't like him.
And what was wrong with the impression in Wolf's book?
Well, no, I guess they got that right. I guess they got
Wolf
that
made
right.
him look like a jerk. I did not like Yeager after reading the book. I felt that Yeager was a bit of a jerk.
Well, I didn't know the guy, so
I mean, yeah, no, of course.
I can't really comment on it. All I know is from the book and
Yeah.
what I heard from other astronauts that he had to bail out of that F-104 test pilot school and had the rocket boost to get this fighter jet up to 100,000 feet plus. And
Total
I heard,
badass, though.
I heard one of the astronauts said that he really needed to get into that simulator before he took that ride. And again, this is all hearsay. I have no idea how it all went down, but I heard it from one of the astronauts saying he did not go into the simulator as he was instructed, and that contributed to losing that plane. But I don't know.
Oh.
That was all before me. But it certainly matched the book. I mean, the movie and the book went together very well.
The Right Stuff for me was absolutely my favorite space book. So my last question is on Interstellar. Have you seen that movie?
I did. I liked it too.
I really, because it's one of my favorite all-time movies. What did you not like about the movie?
Well, I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought
All of it. Okay.
Yeah, the plot. I loved the plot where the guy wants a human companion and resurrects I don't remember the actors involved, the actresses, but resurrects that woman out of cold storage there, out of hibernation. It is the movie, right? I'm talking about the right movie, Interstellar, right?
Yeah, Interstellar is. It came out a few years ago. It's really.
That's the one where they're going like 100,000 light years off to another planet, and
Yes.
they're in a hibernation. They have a meteor hit it or an asteroid.
Oh, that was Passengers.
Oh, sorry.
Interstellar is Christopher Nolan. It's with Matthew McConaughey, and it's a story of where Earth is about to be no longer livable.
Oh, yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah. No, I wasn't a fan of that one. Sorry. I didn't particularly care for that one.
I was curious. That's more. I felt that would be more hit or miss with you. Well, that was wonderful. So
I was not a fan of that one.
Yeah, that one is a bit out there. Christopher Nolan's much more of either you love him or you grow to appreciate him, maybe. So
yeah. Well, the thing about that one, Interstellar, is here the Earth's resources are all drying up, and he's got the only corn crop in the planet, I guess. I think that's the way it starts out. And here he is chasing a drone, running down all of his corn in a pickup truck. I'm thinking,
I know. Yes.
That makes no sense. You're destroying your crop to chase down a drone. That made no sense to me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Astronaut. I really couldn't have been more thankful to have you on today. So awesome.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Astronaut. Be well and stay safe in these crazy times.
You too.